Good morning, Singapore, and good morning to all my panelists. My name is Sandra. I work in Kaito, and I'll be moderating the panel today. So I think consumer crypto is something that, everyone's been talking about recently. We see consumer crypto everywhere. People have been trading these football cards. People are, I guess going on the similar route as like prediction markets or friend tech. They're all, I guess, revolved around consumer crypto. So I really wanted to touch on, each of your background. I know you guys are building very different things, but everything is sort of revolved around consumer crypto. So I'll start with Alex, and then we'll move on to Roham and Eva to give a brief introduction about what you're working on in consumer crypto.
Thank you again. So I'm Alex. I'm the founder of Chiliz. We are the company and the blockchain behind what we call fan tokens, which are more or less loyalty program that has been tokenized on the Chiliz chain. We work with more than 80 sports property, the FC Barcelona, Manchester City, Inter Milan, AC Milan, Paris Saint-Germain, and all of these teams, soccer/football all over the world. And my background, we launched in 2018, so 7 years ago. And from a background perspective, I've been working in the internet space since 1996. So a long time ago, and especially in online gambling for 15 years. So regulated online sports betting and online sports betting.
Very cool. We'll move on to Roham.
Hey everybody, name's Roham Gharegozlou, founder and CEO of Dapper Labs. Dapper, we're also partners with several sports organizations, NBA and NFL, as well as Disney. Our company started in NFTs. We wrote the first non-fungible token standard, ERC 721, back in the day, created a product called CryptoKitties. And our thesis from the very beginning has been the most interesting use of crypto is in making consumer lives better. But these days, it's also happening, the adoption is happening really rapidly through stablecoins, through tokenized assets. And our mission at Dapper is always to bring all of the innovations happening in the crypto space, make it usable by real people. So I'd love to talk about that.
It's great to be back at Token. My name is Eva. I got my start in crypto in 2018, and I've worked around the industry, but previously was a principal at Mechanism Capital. And then after an extended break, I started building a global telco powered by crypto. I'm looking forward to this panel.
Thank you guys for introducing yourselves. I would first like to start the panel by asking both Alex and Roham, because you guys decided to take a blockchain first approach when it comes to consumer crypto. So both Dapper Labs and also Chiliz, you guys both have blockchains of your own. Why did you decide to take that approach of, building a blockchain and taking that approach of consumer crypto rather than, building something that's maybe more generalized?
I think in our case, when we started in 2018, actually Solana didn't exist, and there was a lot of chain that didn't exist at that time. And the vision we had was kind of two layers. One is the consumer-facing app called socios.com, which is the wallet, the on-ramp, and all the utility provided for the tokens that we created. And then there is the chain, the foundation kind of, that is below that. So we decided to have both the infrastructure and the play on top of the infrastructure, mainly because in our case, there is a massive, let's say, ecosystem/network effect, where the more we can onboard sports property, the more we onboard sports property, because everybody wants to be on the same ecosystem. A football fan of PSG is also a fan of Barca and also a fan of an Italian team. So the more we manage to create this network effect, the more it was making sense. And so we are not, I like to say that Chiliz is not here to disrupt the financial industry. We are not here to change the world. We are not the fastest chain and will never be, but we know how to do sports. We are the sports blockchain. That's how we market it here in our booth. And so we believe that for few verticals, few niches, it does make sense to have actually a chain. So we are more an app/vertical chain rather than a generic blockchain.
Yeah, for us, the situation is maybe a little bit different. So we started our company building on top of Ethereum, and now almost everything we do runs on a new crypto network called Flow, flow.com. I'm a board member on the Flow Foundation, but the two organizations are totally separate. And look, the reason Dapper built on Flow originally was just one of practicality. What we were trying to do wasn't possible on other networks. But today, Flow is serving way more developers than just Dapper. Some of the biggest builders are folks like Ticketmaster, Live Nation. Ticketmaster has minted over 100 million NFTs, dropped them to over 13 million consumers without them even knowing that there's a crypto rails behind the scenes. And I think that was always a big part of our thesis is for true consumer adoption, you have to hide the wires and you have to make the technology so easy to use. People and developers don't even know they're building on top of it. And of course, there's network effects from the applications into the network. And a big part of what Dapper is trying to do now is build things that are open from the jump so other people can build on top of it. We brought back our own IPs around CryptoKitties. We have a virtual influencer called Michaela, and everything we do is saying, hey, this is a demonstration of the kinds of products you can build on top of Flow, including in DeFi. And I would say, from our perspective, maybe it's the Silicon Valley guy in me, but we are here to change the world. I think the technology can enable new products and services that completely change the economics, the business relationship between creator, consumer, between bank and borrower, whatever it might be. And especially with the latest boom in stablecoins, tokenized assets, a lot of people for the first time are realizing the value of open programmability, of composability, things that maybe they didn't necessarily understand as much when we were just talking about them in the context of games and entertainment. So I think there's infinite potential in how real consumers' lives are going to change, and that's what we've all been about. But to do that, you need a network where you can actually build experiences that feel seamless and trustworthy to consumers.
Yep. I think one of the most important things for consumer crypto is distribution and sort of network effects, right? As you guys mentioned, throughout building blockchains. I think in crypto as well, like a lot of the apps that did really well nailed the distribution effects initially. But then I think after you see token incentives running out or, token price like tanking, then people kind of run away from, what you're building because they're like, oh, is this really a product that I want to use, like after the network effects or after the initial distribution layer is gone? So how do you like balance between, distribution and sort of the underlying product of what you're building? Maybe we can start with,
Well, I mean, that's the biggest challenge, at least in our industry, when you're a consumer-facing product, is how do you balance traders or crypto enthusiasts and users? And even though at some point these users are going to be merged, or this type of users are going to be merged, we do have people who are buying tokens to trade them, and we do have people who are buying tokens to use them or to use the utility of these tokens. And that's a different need. That's a different profile. You need to build tools that fit both narrative. Of course, the priority is the utility. That's what we created. In the case of fan tokens, for example, when you own a token of Paris Saint-Germain or Juventus or Barcelona, you can vote on decision of the club. So you vote on chain about what color is going to be the jersey next season. You can earn VIP tickets because we have boxes everywhere, etc., etc. But ironically, when you own a token of a team, you're going to hold it. You're going to stake it, actually. Now you need to stake your fan token. And then you have the traders who wants to make money, who it goes up, goes down. And there is, we always, especially at the beginning, we had a bad PR at some point because yes, the token goes up because it's hype and it's crypto and that's how it works. And then it goes down at some point. And there is an argument that those fans or end user lost money. Well, the answer is no, because they still own the exact same utility and they still own the token in their wallet, custodian or not, and they own that utility forever. So we need to educate. The biggest issue for us at the beginning was how to educate media about what we are doing and that what we are building is a long-term vision rather than just a short-term hype based out of price.
Yeah, I think this is a question that the whole industry is still trying to find an answer for. To my team, I kind of talk about it as this virality that's inherent with token incentives. It's almost like kind of nuclear material. You can use it to build a bomb, or you can potentially try to harness it to build a self-sustaining reactor. And I don't think we've figured out the right formula there. but we've run some of the biggest products for the longest duration. And, we've been through multiple market cycles. And the most important thing is just to keep building, know who your end customer is, try to differentiate between the customer and the speculator, but don't ignore the speculator because they're who brings that kind of like viral energy in the first place. And I think that, the next generation of token incentive products are also going to have much more mature and thoughtfully designed ways to acquire the token and thoughtfully designed ways to basically get rid of the token. What are the sources and the sinks? And I think we're trying to learn as much as possible from everything we've learned in game economies to say, well, when it comes to fungible tokens, because that's one thing that Dapper never touched in our history because of the regulatory pressure from the United States. But now that it's very clear, hey, meme tokens are just collectibles, and even L1 and L2 tokens have different regulatory treatment. I think you're going to see people experiment with token incentives in ways that are much more advanced than just say, hey, here's an airdrop, kind of do whatever you want with it. A big part of here's an airdrop, do whatever you want with it was because of the regulatory reasons, the legal advice, etc. Hey, this is, the don't make any promises of utility, etc. And so now that the pressures are in a different direction, we can talk about how do we create long-term sustainable economies that are funded with these sort of mechanisms that basically give the value that's created back to the user that creates it. That's the key part, is all of us, while we're participating in all these social networks and all these communities, we're creating value, but we're typically not getting paid for that value. That value is getting soaked up by those digital middlemen. How can token incentives be a sustainable part, not just of bootstrapping user acquisition, but continued value transfer in any sort of peer-to-peer network?
Yeah, Sandra, I think that's a really nuanced question. I feel like in crypto, virality and distribution is really the strongest and most potent way to get virality in crypto is actually just selling this idea of profit. And if you're selling an idea of profit, you're basically renting attention from people who are not going to stick around. It works spectacularly well in the short term, but when the music stops, you're left stranded. So I think virality is a really great distribution hack. But what's really important and what a lot of companies miss is that who you go viral with. If you're going viral with crypto traders and retail traders who just want to turn a profit, the moment they can make money somewhere else or you stop giving them profit, they're gone. So you definitely need substance, and you want to go viral with your users that would be around even if the crypto wasn't there.
Yeah, I think I wanted to double down on Roham's point. You mentioned, building long-term communities, building long-term like creators or users that can really, be with you even when your token price goes down, even when things are going wrong with your ecosystems, your blockchains. I think it's really important to find people and communities like that. And I think, once you give them a sense of like belonging within your community, they might be more aligned with what you're building, right? So I think for you guys, like, how do you think about communities and building cultures in, the respective apps or respective blockchains that you're building?
Well, I think the most important thing is to recognize, hey, why are people coming to your app other than farming a token or getting the airdrop? And for us, when we're building games, it mostly starts with, why is this thing fun? And if we're creating more of like a financial product, then it's, okay, what's the sustainable value creation here? Am I trying to get it, make it really easy for people to come in and access crypto for the first time? Am I trying to make it really easy for people to come in and learn what meme coins are, do their first few trades? Or am I trying to make it really easy for them to sort of access the profit potential of DeFi, but in a way that sort of protects them, introduces them to new primitives in the right way? So it's got to start with sort of what's the value I'm trying to offer and who's the customer I'm trying to offer it to. Because to your point, if there's a perfect overlap between, hey, my customer is actually the degen trader, and oh wait, the degen trader is the customer that's most interested in the airdrop, then that really works super well. And you see that in the example of products like Hyperliquid, where the token incentives are directly aimed at the community that is actually the long-term ideal customer profile of that platform and benefits from the long-term value proposition of that platform. So that's about it. And then if you're building something that's centered around, let's say, a mainstream audience, sports fan, whatever it might be, then something like token farming isn't going to make sense to them. But this concept of cash back or accruing rewards or earning points, exchanging those points for future benefits, or even in your case, using the currency itself, that's what potentially makes sense. And so I think for us, it always starts with, okay, who's the customer? What's the core value prop? And especially now with tens of millions of users over the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months are going to get their first crypto wallets in the context of their stable coins, in the context of real world assets, in the context of they're hearing their banks and their credit unions and everyone from Fidelity to Citadel to BlackRock kind of getting into this crypto thing, and they're asking themselves, well, okay, how do I become part of this? And our next series of products are about letting those people basically have a home where they can get introduced to the economy for the first time and then earn benefits as they go through it. But it's very important to kind of make sure those incentives are acquiring you the right kind of user, because that's all it is. It's marketing spend. And sometimes you want to rent that attention
For sure.
because that's what marketing is, right? And then you get the attention, you get the press, you sort of, and hopefully that sort of washes over to bring mainstream audience in. But it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, you need distribution. Otherwise, you're dead on arrival, basically.
No.
Yep. I think one thing that's really important about consumer crypto is user experience and how you sort of onboard users to your platform or onboard users to use your application, right? So how do you guys think about, what's the best way to design a user onboarding flow that appeals to both mainstream audience and also crypto native people, right? Because I think like crypto native audiences, they like things that are more complex. They like things that are more, crypto native. But on the other hand, it's like mainstream audiences likes things that are simple. So how do you balance between, building something for crypto audience and building something for the mainstream audience?
So that, I guess, at least in our case, it's a very big question. We started building our consumer-facing app called socials.com as a custodian, so regulated custodian. We were actually the first European company to have PayPal, to be able to buy crypto through PayPal. And when we started our app, there was no mention of the word blockchain or crypto. It was really like, hey, you can buy this token of Teams. You can vote, you can earn tickets, you can do all of this cool stuff, but we were not a crypto app. We were a fan engagement app. That's how we started. But by doing that, we were not able to attract crypto native, which are the big wallet and the non-custodial transaction, etc., etc. So more recently, we actually changed into non-custodial wallets. Everything we are doing because the technology allows us to really have a smoother experience. We still do the onboarding or the on-ramping from a fiat perspective with a regulated product that we do either ourselves or with partners. But we really try to offer everything in a very smooth and not having bad words in that way. Because yes, at least in Europe, US is not a market for us for now. But in Europe, when you use crypto and you use blockchain, it was like scary words. And in Europe, we've been educated that crypto is evil, that's a scam, and everything goes to zero. So we had to actually fight against that and fight even more when you work with legacy brands that are football teams. When you work with Barcelona, you work with a brand that is 125 years old. So you have much more challenges. When you work with CryptoKitties, you own your IP. You actually can be more creative, and that's great. And that's one of the biggest challenge we had, is to convince these major brands that what we were doing with their brand is legit. And that was at that time, one of our biggest challenges.
Yeah, look, I think I agree with that. And for me, I think of it as two separate extremes. If you're serving crypto natives, it's got to be backwards compatible with all the other wallets and AVM infrastructure that exists. So Flow is fully AVM equivalent, and you can build apps on Flow where someone can show up with MetaMask and it looks like just like another L2, switch the network, etc. But if you're building for the next wave of entrants, then that makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so what you have to do is abstract all of it away, hide the wires completely, and ask yourself, okay, well, what's the core value prop I'm offering, and how do I make that an immersive experience? Switching apps to sign transactions, downloading an app before using another product, none of that works whatsoever. And so even when we're talking about financial use cases, it's sort of like a two-way road. If you already have a wallet, then I want to be fully compatible with that wallet. I want you to feel like I'm just like another DeFi app. But if you don't have a wallet, then I want to hide all of that complexity, create a wallet for you on the back end, have credit card rails, ACH on-ramps, recovery, whatever it might be, and sort of make it feel like a product that gives you the benefits of Web3, but doesn't require you to get a PhD in sort of how all this stuff works behind the scenes. Nobody knows how TCP/IP or packet switching works. Everyone uses it every day. And so it's about how to hide that, I remember when I first got my first smartphone, there were so many app developers, so many different products that were showing, hey, what's possible when you use a phone as more than just a communication device. At that time, there were also lots of games that showed, hey, this can be a consumer entertainment device, not just a telephone. But all of that world changed once Apple brought that sort of consistency to the user experience. And that's what was necessary to get 100 million people and eventually billions of people interfacing with the phone like that, not just, geeks like me. And so I think that's the same place we're at in this cycle, where for the first time, the infrastructure is starting to be ready for application developers, whether you're building in sort of consumer finance or entertainment or the things we're talking about, fan loyalty, whatever it might be, to sort of completely give a Web 2-like experience to their customers.
Yeah, I want to maybe touch a bit more on your point, because I've been thinking about this point quite a bit, but it's more like some applications, they try to hide all the complexities of, crypto complexities of like any apps. And but for some apps, they only do well because they are like a crypto native application, right? Like it's not going to do well if you kind of put it in a Web 2 market. It's not going to scale that way. But just because it's on Web 3, people are like, okay, this is a crypto native app. I'm going to use it. I'm going to try it. So like, I'm just trying to think like, how do you balance between making something like fully like Web 2, fully stripping away all the like crypto words and, crypto lingo, versus like doing something that's, the opposite.
But it's easy, no? So who's your customer? If your customer is a crypto holder and a trader, then make it fully sort of backwards compatible. If your customer is a net new person and expanding the pie, then it's kind of crazy to try to push them into that world. They'll get themselves hurt.
Yeah, I think it's all about knowing your audience and I guess where they stand with things.
100%.
Yeah.
For us, I mean, we like to call ourselves Web 2.5. We don't think we are a Web 3 company right now, company or ecosystem. We are Web 2.5 because we are still working with this legacy community. Eventually, our job is to tokenize communities. We tokenize communities of fans of sports property, but that's our job. And so we talk to an audience that does not natively understand what we are doing, which require more education, more investment when we want to onboard them. On the other end, we have native users who understand immediately what we want to do, but don't necessarily care about the utility we are providing. So we are going back in this question about how do we balance that.
But if I can just say something, I mean, I said Web 2, but what I maybe should have said is mobile native user experience, because the things that makes Web 3 special to me are true ownership, are the skin in the game which you have with all these things. It's openness and programmability. It's transparency, auditability. All of these things can still exist in a world where I show up with my credit card and I use Apple Pay. Right? There's nothing that sort of. I think the Web 2 is Web 2 to me. The negative part of it means that you don't own anything that you pay for. Your information, your data, your access to the application is mediated by the developer. You can be deplatformed at any time. And a third-party developer cannot build on top of your data without their permission, whether there is a JP Morgan Chase or whether it's EA or whatever it is. And so everything changes in a Web 3 world, even if we're trying to hide the wires and make it easy to access and make it seamless and safe to use. So I just wanted to correct myself.
Yeah, 100%. I think abstracting the crypto part is only if you're going for mainstream audience before crypto becomes mainstream, you have to abstract the crypto complexity. And I think what's more overlooked is that you need to abstract it and then you need to teach people new crypto concepts, because like owning like tokenizing loyalty or owning digital moments, or even like having a phone bill that rewards you with airline-like points. It's not something that's been done at scale. And actually, that's the UX barrier that we need to overcome. And at the same time, we need to abstract away crypto complexity.
Yep. Since we are almost running towards the end of the panel, I will maybe end with one more question. Since this panel is really about how do you bring consumer crypto into mainstream and how do you really break into the mainstream market, do you think we're there yet in terms of like, do you think that consumer crypto is at a stage where, even your mom or your grandma knows how to use it? If not, like, where do you think we are in the cycle?
Me, I have a 7-year-old kid spending all my money on Roblox and Minecraft. That generation will be when really crypto become mainstream, because they are fully educated about digital assets, items, and everything. And maybe not 7 years old, but the 10, 15 of today. So I think we're still 5 to 10 years of really talking mainstream as we define it today. And that's fine, because like every technology and every usage, the only thing that matters is time.
Yeah, look, I mean, even today, whether it's your daughter or your grandma, they can go on the App Store, download Disney Pinnacle, and I'm sure they will be able to figure out why to use it, how to use it, why it's cool. And we see both kids and parents, they really get into it. But that's just one sort of entryway. That's one product. And I think over the next 12, 18 months, tens of millions of consumers are going to get their first crypto wallets without knowing that they're crypto wallets. I think every single mainstream consumer platform, whether you're talking X or Discord or whatever it is going to be looking at, hey, what does it look like if we give wallets to our customers? Again, behind the scenes, let them hold balances, let them stake those balances, let them earn yield, let me earn yield off of their balance, whatever it might be. And I think the programmability that's going to come from putting the financial system on chain, even finance people don't fully understand it. And then the universe of opportunity for us crypto folks, as developers, et cetera, is massive. And every mainstream user's assets are going to be on chain, even if they're not. And so it'll be this kind of pull that basically gets them over to this new world. And then people like us, okay, what else do we give them to do? Because once you have that install base of tens of millions of wallets, hundreds of millions of potential users, then you can start building much more interesting consumer games and applications on top of it as well. So I think that, games and entertainment, people ask me sometimes, hey, why weren't games the first thing to kind of cross the chasm? I would say, the stablecoin adoption that's happening today would not have happened if it wasn't for, Top Shot doing $2 billion of transactions, onboarding 1 million users, showing that the technology can be used by real people, and that it is production ready. Now we're going to go to trillions of dollars of transactions of volume and hundreds of millions of users. And that's great, because then we can come with the next act beyond that and build on top of it. So I think mainstream adoption is happening right now, and it's the best time to be in technology in general, but I think also in crypto.
Yeah, just to add on, I think mainstream adoption is inevitable. Maybe it's happening right now, and we see it with payments, we see it with stable coins. Different countries, there's strong product market fit with stable coins. It's inevitable, and really excited for that future.
Yeah, we'll wrap up the session today. Thank you so much to all my panelists. I hope you had a good time listening to their insights.